keep watching.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about planes and flight attendants.
Okay.
So we all know what happened to Dr. David
Dow.
Dow.
Dr. Dow.
Oh my gosh, I almost said
the
Chow.
notorious
Dow.
Dr. Dow.
David Dow, who was, of course, on the plane, on the flight, and he got dragged off by security because he refused to get off because they
Here
overbooked.
it is right there.
There's the video. Okay, so all of these incidents have been happening where passengers feel like maybe they can be a little bit more defiant. So now flight attendants are coming forward to say that has us on edge now. One added, I don't want them to be afraid of me, but I also don't want them to break or cause a security breach because now we tell them the fasten the seatbelt sign is on, or because we say, please be seated. Now the camera phones are coming out. Listen to this.
The Dow incident brought a lot of attention to us and not in a way that we would like.
That one incident made that big of a difference?
Yes.
Some passengers feel now that they could be more defiant, and that has us on edge.
So 3 flight attendants working for 3 different airlines say that the incident has emboldened some passengers to feel as if they can disregard flight attendants' instructions on board. And they told ABC that basically they feel like the minute something happens, I feel like something might escalate, and now I'm nervous to say anything, which they feel might then be putting other people's security and safety at risk. Because if they're too scared to tell you, is your seatbelt fastened, and they're worried someone's going to pull out a camera phone and be combative, then maybe they're going to be a little less likely to ensure that the safety regulations have been met, is what some are saying.
A lot of flight attendants have seen everything.
Yeah.
So being in the air, I don't know how long they're working for or anything like that, but if you imagine that they're dealing with people all day in a confined space, it's hard work, and their job is to protect us. And I think that they don't feel like they can protect as much anymore because people are like, well, I'm just going to record this because you're acting inappropriate, which they're not. They're just wanting to make sure that you're safe. They want to make sure your seatbelt is on. They want to make sure your tray table is pulled back up and your seat back is sitting straight up. So I think for flight attendants, it is a hard job, but I feel like passengers are taking advantage of that, and I feel like they need to respect that they're just trying to get the plane to and from a location.
You know, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because we wouldn't have seen the Dr. Dow situation if they would have handled the Dr. Dow situation in a better manner. He got dragged off a plane.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But that was by security, not by a flight attendant.
That was by security, but the flight attendant didn't do anything to de-escalate the situation before security even got involved.
That we know of.
Well, that we know
we don't
of,
see
but
any
the
video
thing,
from it.
That's true, but the fact that if you are the flight attendant, you are the first line of defense. You're the first line of customer service. So the fact that it even got to that point, to me, especially on the heels of flights being overbooked and oversold, like this isn't a new situation. People feeling the way they feel about airlines. So for me, I understand where they're coming from, but as a business, Delta, United, any other airline, they could have got ahead of this and did across the board customer service training for everybody involved, because you can go to the ticket counter before you even go through security checkpoint, one person tells you one thing, you get to the gate and someone tells you a totally other thing, and there's 2 sets of rules based on who you're dealing with, 2 personalities, 2 attitudes. So at some point the airlines are going to have to shoulder something and say, are we training our employees to do X, Y, and Z? Is it consistency across the board? And do people feel like whenever you're having a bad day as a flight attendant, you're taking it out on me? Example, I was on a plane one time sleeping, and I guess we were supposed, you're supposed to raise your seat back. The lady leaned over, pushed my button, and jammed my seat back without even tapping me and waking me up. Customer service training. So again, I hear that, but airlines will have to do their part as well.
Yeah, I hear that. But I think that now, fast forward to where we are today, where all this stuff has happened, clearly customer service got breached along the way somehow for some of these different airlines. But now it is a little bit, I do feel like when I'm on a plane, I'm almost waiting for something to happen. Mason, I see behind the camera.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I mean, these people have their phones out. They're waiting for either 2 things. One, they're going to take the video, the next viral video of something happening like it did to Dr. Dow, or they're waiting for it to happen to them.
Okay.
That's ridiculous, honestly.
So if it's hard to hear, he said he feels like people are waiting for their phones, waiting with their phones out, waiting to basically capture something happening in the act. And I do feel that way. I feel like now people are expecting that, okay, I've seen the trend of what's happened on planes, and if it happens to me, I want to make sure that I'm getting video evidence of it. Not to say that it shouldn't be happening just because you're recording it. I mean, if something bad happens, record it. It's proof, it's evidence. But I feel like now people are almost waiting for that, like thinking something might happen, so I'm not going to turn my phone off when they tell me to. I'm going to keep it out just a little bit longer. Then if something happens, I can whip it up real quick. And it's like, if we're in a situation now where everyone on the plane is starting to feel like they're expecting something to happen, don't you feel like that energy might then lead to something happening?
Now, but is this just airlines or is this everywhere? Because if you go to a concert and there's like some ruffling, people pull their phone out. If you're at the mall or like at a Walmart or something and you hear somebody arguing or fussing, you're pulling your phone out. So
that's true.
It's not necessarily even the airlines. It's just maybe it's because it's a tighter space and you can't get out. You're stuck in there with each other. But now we seem to be in an age where if you just hear a little bit of rumbling, a little bit of chatter, and one voice being raised, you're pulling that phone out and you're like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna get it.
But I do feel for the flight attendants who, they do deal, as Michelle said, with very unruly customers all the time. People who are just not excited to be on a plane, and they've had a bad day, they've had a series of bad events happening, and they're not on the plane for a good reason maybe, and they don't want to deal with it. But from a flight attendant standpoint, there are regulations they need to make sure that are met. And it's sad to hear that now they feel like they can't fully do their job without feeling like they're walking on eggshells, because I want to know that everyone around me is safe and that our seatbelts are fastened, that we all understand how the oxygen's going to work. But if you feel like you got to walk on eggshells and you can't quite tell someone to put your seatbelt on, that will impact other people around you as well.
Yeah, and we're getting viewer comments too. Janet Piper, unfortunately, flight attendants will have to tread lightly now. However, there are sue-happy people who are just looking for a reason to make a quick buck. Kimberly Morgan, I definitely agree with those poor flight attendants. I'm sure some people feel a sense of power when they board a flight. And then Maria Torres says, flight attendants and passengers are dealing with the problems airlines are causing just to get more money. So people, people kind of split, but at some point, I'm glad we're addressing it, because after Dr. Dow, it just hit the fan. And
it did.
It did.
And you're always on a plane.
Yeah, once a week I'm on a plane, and I'll have to say, just like a cross-section of humanity, I have found very kind, over-the-top, gracious flight attendants, completely skilled, and then I've found some that are not so nice. And the same with passengers. Where you have human beings, you're going to have the full spectrum.
Right, and Linda, I saw you say if everyone would just show respect.
Right?
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
There is something about Southwest Airlines flight attendants that's different than the rest. Doesn't it seem like they just stepped off of a high school camp council team? They're all like camp counselors.
And Virgin America.
Oh my gosh.
I took a flight with my husband on Virgin, and our flight was a little bit delayed, so when we were up in the air, they made sure that we had the best time. And
Back
I was
in the day,
thank you for that.
when I used to drink, half of my brain cells are lost because of Virgin Airlines.
That's because they played Michael Jackson.
You know those don't come back, right?
What?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, Mark, what the heck?
All right.